Thank you, Chair. Thank you both for your evidence. My understanding, Friends of Leadbeater Possums, is that the line you just read out was actually in relation specifically to grounds 2 through 30 that the appeal was hearing. Is that correct?
I don't believe so, Senator. I believe it was a comment generally on the length and detail.
They actually don't concern the Section 38 and the meaning of, and I quote, in accordance with an RFA. Oh, he's frozen again.
It was a comment on the Justice Mortimer's 400-page decision generally. It was actually mentioned that it was over 400 pages at the beginning of the paragraph, if you look at the
yes.
detail I just gave you.
Yes, there's a lot of, we've seen environmental regulation stacked high today, so this is an area not without a lot of paperwork. I just want to go to how many surveys of Leadbeater possums you've undertaken in reserves.
Is this to me, Senator
Yes,
McKenzie?
Sorry.
Friends of Leadbeater's Possum does not itself conduct surveys. We are supported by other groups which are more active in conducting surveys. And of course, we follow the published science, which you've heard about this morning.
Yes. Okay, so then would you know how much research is done within the ARCs, such as the national parks?
Well, as you've heard this morning, the surveys are divided, Professor Lindenmeyer's surveys are divided equally between reserved areas and areas open for logging. Surveys by other groups are more focused on areas where there is logging, because the logging is, of course, a problem for the survival of the possums and gliders, and therefore to make the best use of that survey time, which is conducted by unpaid volunteers, that's what they look at.
Needs to be accessible, yes. So how many Leadbeater possums are there in national parks?
Well, that is not a meaningful question with respect, Senator. The number of possums is not relevant. What is relevant is the direction the population is moving. And the science is very clear that the possum is in decline wherever it appears, whether it's in forest available for logging or national parks.
Yeah, I'm specifically interested in the national park estate, given that they're put aside essentially to protect species.
Well, actually, Senator, you're not correct on that. The area that is known as the Ranges National Park was actually put aside, as was alluded to this morning, for the protection of the water catchments of Melbourne more than 100 years ago.
Mr Meacher, I'm not going to debate with you why a nation and a state determines national parks are not or are in existence. But one of the reasons that a society chooses to set aside blocks of land under a commonwealth, and that's a little c, not a capital C, is obviously, I'm trying to understand your knowledge, given that you're the leader of Friends of Leadbeaters for Possums. What is happening then with the population of Leadbeater possums within those arcs, within the national parks themselves?
Yes, that might be one reason why parks are set up. It wasn't the reason why these parks were set up.
Okay. So can I ask, my question remains, Mr Meacher, I'm on very limited time. What is your understanding of the trend of Leadbeater possum population within national parks?
It's in decline, and in particular in 2009, around 35% of the habitat of Leadbeater's possum was burned in the Black Saturday fires, and we possibly lost 50% of the population generally, which is what led to the application to upgrade the animal to critically endangered.
So why are our national parks and reserves failing? Why are they not adequately working? around the Leadbeater possum population?
Well, one particular reason is, of course, parks as well as state forests can be impacted by fire. That is something that is beyond our control, and therefore what we need to focus on is controlling the things we can control, such as logging.
0.04% of the estate, as I understand. Does your organisation have charitable status, Mr Meacher?
Yes, it does.
Can you guarantee that your organisation has never undertaken or incited people to undertake illegal activities in timber harvesting forests?
We don't promote illegal activities. That's not what we're about. We are about advocacy through education and through meeting with Vic Forest and the relevant ministers, and now through the courts.
So you can guarantee your organisation has never undertaken or incited people to undertake illegal activities in timber harvesting forests?
I think he's answered the question.
No, he hasn't answered the question, Senator.
You can't just get to berate the witness
Can you
into saying
guarantee,
something you
please,
want.
Mr Meacher?
We've had some good lessons of that.
Senator, can you guarantee that none of your comments have ever incited any logging lobbyists to undertake unlawful activities?
I'm not a charitable organisation, Mr Meacher. I'm Senator for Victoria.
No,
so can you guarantee? So I take it you can't guarantee. From your answer, your evasiveness, you cannot guarantee.
Senator McKenzie, that's a leading question. Mr
Well,
Meacher, could
answer,
you
Chair.
answer the question, and then you've got one more question, Senator McKenzie, before I pass the call on.
Off the top of my head, I believe I could guarantee that, but if some
Feel free to
bizarre
take that on notice, Mr
Yeah,
Meacher.
thank you. Last question. Has your organisation ever supported other groups who've undertaken illegal activities in forests? And I'd like to table this tweet, which might help you with your answer, Mr Meacher.
except I can't see it.
Okay, I'll read it to you.
That's not very
So, at breaking, locals blockade access road to 9 new areas at threat of immediate logging in Snobs Valley. Local council has called for the protection of the Snobs Creek Valley. Daniel Andrews, we want an immediate end to native forest logging. And you've retweeted that tweet on the 26th of the 2nd, 2021.
Sounds like sharing information.
Yes.
Fair enough. I would just say, first of all, Senator, that a retweeting doesn't necessarily mean that one agrees with what is retweeted. It's simply a sharing of information that we feel that people who read our tweets would be interested in. And number two, as you mentioned there, that is an area that the local council, the Shire of Murrindindi, has called to be protected, and we have no problem with supporting that.
And they've been under fire locally for it.
Thank you.